Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast. I am Marc Givler, joined by Kevin Noon. It is National Signing Day for the 2023 class. We are doing our recruiting capsules on everyone that's signing with Ohio State today. Austin Siereveld is up next. He's a four-star offensive lineman out of Lakota East in Westchester, Ohio, just outside of Cincinnati. Austin is maybe the most quiet guy in this class, certainly one of them. Did not talk a lot about his recruiting process. Is not a guy who is really out there on social media a lot. So a guy I think kind of fits in with some of the other guys they've had over the years on the offensive line. These big nasty guys who don't care much for any of the hoopla. So Austin definitely fits that. Kevin, I know you've had a chance, I think, to see him at a camp or two. Obviously, we've watched his film. I got to see him this fall during the season. But, your first impressions on Austin Siereveld.
Yeah, he's a big kid. I got a funny story. I was at the Woody Hayes facility. I was very early in the process, and I think we just kind of come back from some of the lockdowns and everything else. And he comes out with his dad, and I start talking to him. I have no idea who he is, and I get an interview with him, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to ask, who are you? So thankfully he doesn't remember that, but because he's 6'5", 320, and while I'm not necessarily a small dude, he towers over me. And we see sometimes where you get this guy that's all right, well, we're going to try you at multiple positions and see what you are. I mean, I kind of think we know what he is at 6'5", 320. I mean, he isn't necessarily just that guy that you're going to say is like a left tackle, but we go and say that if you want to see if somebody is a guard, see what they look like in their trunk. And this guy's got the trunk of being just that kind of just gigantic guy. And I think that he's going to be somebody who's going to respond really well within the system and has some major upside.
Yeah, I actually really like Austin, maybe even more so than what his rankings. I mean, he's a four-star. He's been kind of a high 3, low 4 throughout the process. He is a mean guy. I mean, it's funny. He's such a nice kid off the field. Almost looks like he should be like, doing my taxes or something, but he gets on the field and he's looking for contact, as you can see. I mean, my gosh, he's just a physical, finish all his blocks and look for contact type of player. Plays all over the line actually for his high school team, which I thought was fascinating. Plays right side, plays left side, plays a lot of tackle at the high school level, but will be an interior guy at Ohio State, will be a guard center. But plays defense as well. And so just a guy who I think is kind of undervalued. I think he's a better player than maybe what his ranking has been. I also think there are some things he does that go undervalued. Oh, by the way, he is their punter, and he's actually a pretty good punter, but won't be doing that at Ohio State either. But I think people take for granted the ability to flip from right to left side. I think everyone's like, oh yeah, if you can play left tackle, you can play right tackle, or if you can play right guard, you can play left guard. It doesn't always work like that. That's like saying if you can shoot a free throw right-handed, you can shoot a free throw left-handed. That is not always the case. In fact, it's oftentimes not the case. But he's able to do this already, and so there's already some built-in versatility there. If there's an injury, if there's something where he can kind of go either side of the line. So that to me is added value right there. But again, I love his meanness. I love his toughness. Player comp, because I know that's what people always want. I think is he as strong as this guy coming out of high school? Probably not, but he reminds me a little bit of Billy Price. He's got a similar body type. They play kind of the same way. They both kind of were able to be versatile guys in the high school level. I know Billy came in initially as kind of a defensive tackle, but I think most people who saw him in high school knew that wasn't going to be his future. So there's a little bit of Billy Price there. I think that's obviously the high end, as Billy, was a highly drafted guy and started like 100 million games in Columbus. But I think that's maybe his upside. That's maybe his ceiling if he can get there. So interesting guy. I saw him in the fall. They played Lakota West, a big rivalry game against Malik Hartford, another Ohio State signee today. And it was funny. He got a personal foul. Malik took some liberties with his running back after the whistle, and Austin didn't take too kindly with it and kind of threw him, pulled him off the pile and shoved him and got a personal foul. So that's actually on our YouTube channel. If you go to the YouTube channel, you can find it. If you just search our shorts, there's a minute clip of that play where he gets a personal foul on his future teammates. So that was that moment kind of sold me even more a little bit, because that just shows you when he's such a nice, quiet guy off the field, but he doesn't care who it is, future teammate, future Buckeye or not. He didn't like what happened there, and he made it very clear that he didn't like that. So I think they could use some of that right now on that offensive line, some nasty, and so I think he'll bring that. Kevin, I guess here's my concern. Not, we're going to have these little things. We kind of pick these guys apart a little bit. He's coming from this wing T triple option. So he has really never had to pass protect before. The blocking schemes are going to be different. We've seen this before. Some guys it's worked for, some guys it hasn't. So, what's your concern level, I guess, about the system he's coming from, and, what that could mean, I guess, for the transition to Ohio State?
I'm always concerned about everything when it comes to this, because player evaluation is so difficult to do. And I think offensive line is the most difficult of any of them to necessarily know what you've got. And, we talk about, shooting left-handed and right-handed free throws. This is he's been shooting them Rick Barry style. Now he's going to have to be able to sit there and shoot them overhand. It's going to be a learning process. People are going to need to be patient with him. He's going to have a lot of work to do in order to pick things up. There are certain things in terms of offensive line play that are kind of universal, but schemes and a lot of this other stuff are not. And with very little pass pro in his background, that's going to be something that he's going to have to they're going to have to give him a good big brother in terms of the program, and he's going to probably have to spend a lot of time going over his craft. I think Austin's a guy that's going to be able to get it figured out, but I wouldn't be writing him off if he was not mentioned once in terms of the two deep in 2023, because it is a major tear down and rebuild type of situation to get that awful wing T stuff out of the system and be able to reinfuse him with actual current modern day football.
Yeah, I'm usually hyper concerned about this, and I'm not saying I'm not concerned about this here. It's probably my one big question, just moving forward. But I was able to see him in a camp setting. I was actually surprised he even showed up. It was the Under Armour camp that he did. I think he did it actually 2 years in a row, but he did it this past spring. And I was surprised how well he did. In that, now this is the t-shirt and shorts circuit. It is not the same as doing a pass set in full pads where guys can bull rush and everything else. It's not the ideal litmus test, but he did very well for himself in those situations. So every time I've seen him in that kind of environment, he's done better than you would think. And we kind of went through this last year at the All-American Bowl with Carson Hinsman, where we're watching Carson Hinsman, and he came from the same type of thing. He never had to pass for in his life. And that poor kid, they made him snap center because they had so many issues on the offensive line that week with guys opting out, or I think they had a COVID run through the hotel that week. And they were down to 6 or 7 offensive linemen by the middle of the week. And so they're making Carson Hinsman not only pass protect against some of these monsters, but he's also snapping for the first time in his life. So I think Austin's going to be put in a good situation. Obviously, when he gets to Ohio State, they're not going to just be like, oh, by the way, you also have to learn how to snap simultaneously while we teach you how to pass pro. I think they'll start him at guard. And then if they feel he can handle center duties, because they do like to have multiple guys that can do that, they'll go from there. But like I said, I've seen him do enough in the camp setting without struggling that would ease my concerns a little bit on that. So we'll see how it goes. Like I said, I'm higher on him probably than most are with the rankings. I think he's really good. I think he's, again, scheme system questions, concerns aside, I think he's, for me, their second best offensive lineman in this class. And I think he's one of those guys where, I've talked about this with a few other guys. It's kind of hard to see a scenario where this is a total miss by Ohio State. It's kind of hard to see a scenario where he's not at least solid for them. And if he's not All-American, if he's not All-American, then he's not All-American. But I think it's hard for me to envision a scenario where he doesn't, have maybe 1 or 2 seasons as a starter. I just think he's kind of a high floor guy to me. But we'll see. As Kevin said, offensive line recruiting is by far the toughest. It's the toughest. They're the toughest kids to evaluate at the high school level. It's not particularly close. I mean, maybe quarterback is kind of up there, but offensive line is always the tough one. And you kind of go into it understanding you may only bat 50%. You may only hit 50-50 on your offensive line evaluation.
You'd be a Hall of Famer in baseball if that were the case.
You might be a Hall of Famer in football if you're able to evaluate offensive linemen at a 50-50 clip. I mean, that's there's years. I mean, we can go back, not to open old wounds, but we could go back and find some offensive line classes over the years where the batting average was about 0. So it's not easy. Paris Johnsons are few and far between. Donovan Jacksons are few and far between. A lot of them reside somewhere in the middle, and it could go either way. And so they've got a good batch here, though, and we'll be interested to kind of follow these guys here the next couple of years to see how they develop. All right, that'll wrap it up for this one. Again, BuckeyeHuddle.com for all of these. We have other signing day content. We're on the message board. You can ask us questions, talk to us. We'll be on there all day. We'll be doing a live show as well, so we'll be kind of juggling everything and making sure we're interacting with you guys. But BuckeyeHuddle.com for all of this, or YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not already, or you can download these on your podcast platforms in audio format. But thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you on the next one.